Life speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. Here we will share stories of strength, testimonies of triumph, verses of victory, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul, to keep you on your path of purpose and navigate this thing called life with power and authority. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I'm your host for When Life Speaks, here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. I am glad you accepted the invitation to join us tonight. There's something in this broadcast just for you, and if it is going to be a blessing to your life, it will be to someone else as well. So share, tag, start a watch party, and invite someone you know to join us. Then turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to When Life Speaks. I am your host, Andrea L. Hines, and I am very, very glad that you have chosen to join us this evening right here on ALH Broadcasting. And you know we are an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. So I am glad that you have decided to join us tonight. It is always a pleasure to have you come in and see about life and see about what's being said and be ready to receive. We just like to take this time and turn down the volume of life for just a little bit and just take it easy and let you be ready to receive. We've always got some information for you. We've got special guests for you. We've got a lot going on and a lot that we like to share with you. So I'm happy that you are here tonight. I'm happy that you are able to share with us. And if we have any folks coming in from other places, Alan will let us know and he'll put that up on the screen. And we're glad sometimes Toronto joins us and Jamaica joins us from time to time. So we're glad about that. We're glad about that. I cannot believe that we are halfway through the last month of the year. We're at December 15th. Can you believe that? I tell you what, this year has gone by so fast, and we have had a lot of different things going on. And I wanted to mention one thing to you in particular tonight. A lot of times at this time of year, we are looking at ways to give back and ways to help and ways to just be a blessing to other people. So I am telling you now, we had a guest on not long ago, LaToya Neal, and she's with an organization called Prosperity 122, prosperity122.org. And I want you to go to that website. She has something going on called Pack the Purse. And it is a way that she gives to young people who are aging out of the foster care system. And it's just a good organization. And I want you to go to that website and find a way for you to help them. There is a deadline coming up. Actually, it's in a couple of days on the 17th, but it's not too late to give a monetary donation and support them as she supports these young people. So prosperity122.org. Go there, find out more about the organization and look for ways that you can help. Okay, so I wanted to get that plug in for Prosperity. And I tell you what, not long ago, I'm going to get right into this tonight because I want our guests to have enough time to really share with us tonight. She has a story of strength and a testimony of triumph. And you may remember that a few weeks ago, we had a prayer for her. And I am so happy. I am so happy that she is doing well and that she is able to be with us tonight. Hey there, Francina. Francina may remember too, because we also prayed for her on our 8 at 8 program that comes on 3 days a week. So I'm hoping that some of them will be on tonight to get to meet. Sometimes we don't get to meet the people that we pray for. We don't get to really fully hear their stories. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to change that a little bit tonight, switch that up a little bit. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Carrie Runyon. And Carrie was born in Washington, D.C. She was raised in Sanford, Florida. And she currently lives in Deltona, Florida, not Daytona, but Deltona, Florida, with her husband, James. She works as a motorist services specialist for the tax collector's office. So something tells me you better be real careful around this lady because she's in the tax collector's office, okay? But she has aspirations to be a professional proofreader, something I need all the time. So there is a market for a professional proofreader out there, and that's what she would love to do. She loves movies. She loves reading and painting. She loves coloring, and she loves writing. Carrie says she hopes to one day successfully publish her own book. When she can, Carrie likes to participate in events that support people living with alopecia and who choose to be bald. She is a member of a Facebook group called the Bald Boss Movement. And we're going to have her tell us about that and her battle with a very serious life threatening diagnosis of a relatively uncommon illness called achalasia. We're going to take a break right now. I'm going to take a breath right now, right here. And when we come back, you will get to meet our special guest of the evening, Carrie Runyon. Hang in there. We'll be right back. Welcome, Carrie. Welcome, welcome. Glad
Hello,
to have you.
hello, 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 everyone.
Good. Hey, Bernice Clark is on the line with us. Bernice is part of our 8 group and part of our village that weighs in a lot of times on When Life Speaks. And Bernice, I was just telling the listening audience that not long ago we were praying for Carrie. She had to have some emergency surgery, and I'm so glad that she's able to be with us tonight. And she's going to tell us a little bit about that journey. And I don't know whether it's Cherie or Sherry, but she is saying hello to Carrie tonight. So welcome. Glad to have you on
Hello,
the line
hello.
with us this evening. And Carrie, I want you to, I am really going to turn a lot of the program over to you and just allow you to tell your story the way that you want to. I've known Carrie her entire life. So I know a little bit about her journey. I know a little bit about some of the things that she's been going through. But I wanted her to share it because it truly is a story of strength and a testimony of triumph. We hear a lot about alopecia now, probably more so than we used to. And a lot of people have not heard anything about or know anything about achalasia. So I wanted you to educate us a little bit about that tonight as well, and help us to understand, because there are always things out there and things going on that we don't know anything about until we're right in the throes of it and right in the middle of it. So I don't know whether you want to start there and work backwards, or whether you want to start with alopecia and your journey with that. Whichever way you want to go, the floor is yours, and
Okay.
I'm giving it to you tonight. So just tell us wherever you want to start, just go for it. Just go for it.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I hope everybody is having a good evening. I can start with achalasia. Achalasia was, oh, how can I explain this? So my achalasia developed. It started when I was a young child, and let's see, it's a swallowing disorder. Um, in my case, my the muscle at the end of my esophagus, where the esophagus and the stomach meet, that muscle remained closed, and it was allowing my esophagus to enlarge. And by the time I had gotten into college, it looked like I had two stomachs sitting on top of each other.
Mm,
Um, I was unable to eat a lot of foods that I used to eat. Like I loved growing up, I loved eating hot dogs, pizza. I can eat greens, I can eat chicken, I could have all that stuff. And then it got to a certain point. I want to say about middle school, going into high school is when I really started to notice my diet changing, because foods I once was able to eat, I was no longer able to eat because I couldn't swallow them, or at least they would get stuck right here in my chest.
mm,
So I went to my pediatrician, I went to the doctors, and they told me you have what's called achalasia. And they said this usually is seen in young children, like I guess babies and elderly, the elderly, not really seen in somebody my age. So I suffered with that for a while until I can get actual treatment for it. I was in high school when I got my first, I guess it's called an endoscopy, where they put a tube down my throat and blew up a balloon to try to enlarge to try to open up the space. That worked for a little while. I had that done twice. And then I want to say it was my junior year in high school, my junior or senior year. I had a procedure where they went in through my rib cage to actually cut that muscle um, at the end of my esophagus. They cut the muscle so that it would just remain open, but it ended up closing. It closed so tight that it looked like by the when I my freshman year in college, when I got sick for the first time, um, I went to the hospital and the doctor told me, they said, your esophagus is completely closed. It's basically the opening at the end of my esophagus looked like a pinhole.
wow.
That's how small it was. So nothing was getting through. By the time I reached my, what was it? By the time I reached my second or third year in college, I developed something called aspirating pneumonia.
Mm,
Basically, I was inhaling what was in my esophagus into my lungs to the point where my lungs completely filled with fluid. And I was in the hospital for a month before I had surgery, and even longer after I had surgery. The surgery I call it an esophagectomy, but I think there's another term for it now. But
mm,
they basically removed the enlarged part of my esophagus, pushed my stomach up into my chest cavity, and then took half of my stomach and reformed an esophagus, so to speak, and attached it to my throat. This is one of my scars here
mm.
from the surgery that I had then.
Wow. Now, what did you do about school during that time since you were out as long as you were? Were they able to work something out so that you
Yeah.
were stayed on track and were able to continue, or how
Well,
did that work?
I actually had to withdraw from all my college classes and just basically take the rest of that year off.
Okay.
Um,
And
and
take care
then
of
and
yourself.
take care of myself and heal and get better.
Hmm.
Um, because I was an inpatient for a couple of months, and I was able to move back home um, from Tallahassee back to Sanford. And I was in the hospital for a little while receiving antibiotics because of all of the um, medical problems that came up afterwards. So, because my lungs were filled with things that I inhaled from my esophagus, they
Hmm.
had to collapse both of my lungs during the surgery, clean them somehow, and remove all of that stuff. And that gave me I believe the doctor called it an atypical strand of tuberculosis, some non-contagious thing because there was so much infection. So I had to have antibiotics for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had to withdraw from my classes. I moved back home, got my IV antibiotic treatments, and then I was able to just recover. I was so skinny. I lost so much weight. I was already skinny to begin with, but then I just lost more weight. I was down to like 100 pounds
Oh my.
by the time my surgery was over and everything. So I was super skinny.
And Carrie, you went through this. It sounds like you were incapacitated. I'll use that term. It's just incapacitated for at least a year.
At least.
Was it? Yeah,
Um,
it seems like it was about that long.
so I went into the hospital in February of 2001. My surgery was at the beginning of March, and I didn't leave Tallahassee until early May, late April, early May. And then I came back to Sanford, was in the hospital for a few weeks, and slowly but surely trying to build up my strength, over time. So it did take a while. I literally set out for the rest of the year. I didn't go back to school until the fall
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when I was able to eat my regular diet and build my strength back up and gain some weight. Yeah. So then I went back to school and finished college and graduated.
Good for you.
Yes.
Good for you. Now let me ask. Now you were saying that achalasia,
Achalasia, yes.
that was a I want to say, was that a result of, or did it have anything to do with what you had gone through with the problem with your esophagus?
It was, I guess I had it when I was a baby and it just never got better. It
Okay.
never improved. So as I got older, it got worse.
Mm,
And by the time I got to my second or third year in college, I needed to have surgery to fix it. And I needed to have surgery to correct it. And I
mhm,
was grateful that I was able to have that. So the achalasia just lasted for years and years and years. It affected how I ate. It affected how I slept because I had to sleep like almost at a 90-degree angle, sitting up straight,
mm,
relying on gravity to keep the food down.
mhm,
Um, it was it's not something I'd wish on anybody at all, to be honest. It was just terrible.
mhm, mhm. Now this is the first time you had never heard of that before, had you?
No, for the longest time growing up, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I can only describe the pain, and because you physically couldn't, I physically looked okay, but I was hurting. Trying to describe the pain, it's like, well, what do you mean? Why does that hurt? Or where are you hurting? Or what's happening? Or why is it taking you so long to eat? Why do you eat so slowly? Why are you wasting time? All of that stuff, asking questions, and I can only explain, what was going on. Um, so it was just,
And Francina has a question for you. She wants to know, was it hard to diagnose? Because it seems like you may have been going through uh, some I'll call them symptoms
symptoms, yeah.
that could very easily have been attributed to something else, since this is not really that common. Did you find that to be the case?
Yes, it was in a child my age, it wasn't expected.
Okay.
So I guess it would, in babies it normally says, okay, once the esophagus fully develops, the baby will be fine. But once you get to a child who's in elementary, middle school into high school, they're like, okay, you shouldn't be suffering from this. So what's causing your pain? What's
Mhm.
causing your discomfort? What's causing you not to be able to eat? Why are you always vomiting? So it once I got in high school, I was at the doctors all the time getting tests run. And they said, okay, they did barium swallows and they discovered there's a narrowing in my esophagus. Like
Mhm.
my esophagus was regular, and then it was just like, okay, it's closed down here. And that's how they told me, okay, you have achalasia. I believe I had to go to Shands Hospital
Mhm.
for that in Gainesville.
Now let me ask you this: your alopecia,
Yes.
was this discovered at the same time that you were going through with the achalasia?
Yes, my hair started falling out when I was a just at the end of my freshman year, beginning of my sophomore year in high school. That's when my
Okay.
hair started falling out and thinning. I would notice it a lot when I took a shower, and I'd like, I have all this hair in my hands. What's happening? Why am I shedding? I thought it was because I was malnourished due to my achalasia. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I thought it was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, okay, once I get that better, then my hair will grow back. That's not what happened. So it was, I discovered alopecia in high school. I wasn't officially diagnosed till later on.
Mm-hmm. Was it
Um,
frightening for you?
hmm,
Was
it
it frightening for you?
it was a little scary because I'm in high school. I'm what, 15, 16 years old. And I would always think to myself, well, what am I going to do with my hair? Like, I can't, it's just, there's not much of it. Am I supposed to wear a wig? And I didn't want to do that in high school because in high school,
Yeah.
image is important to a teenager, and some teenagers can be cruel. And I was always getting picked on for one thing or another. And I'm like, I do not need somebody to snatch this wig off my head while I'm walking down the sidewalk. I'll never go back to school if that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was just, I tried to deal with it, hide it, you know, pretending that it wasn't there didn't really help matters any. I just tried to, I found a way to navigate. I found a way to cope. It
Mm-hmm.
was just a part of my life, but it was
Yeah.
hard to adjust to because nobody knew, again, this was one of those things that it's like, well, what is alopecia? I didn't know what it was
Mm-hmm.
until later in life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but in high school, it was really difficult to try to just deal with.
And the doctors could not or did not diagnose it. They didn't really
I
understand.
had to go to a dermatologist for it
Okay. Okay.
because my bald spot started in it. Well, of course, it started right here, and
Mm-hmm.
then it went to the top of my head, is where it started getting real bad. Right here in the very crown of my head is where my bald spot started, and it just spread from there and got bigger. And I had to go to a dermatologist, and they took like skin grafts or skin samples. I tried Rogaine, hair growth serum. I tried all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
There was some scarring early on too. I had noticed it became difficult to brush or comb my hair, from the scalp back, because my scalp, I had sores all over my scalp.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how that was going to affect me either. So I just kept getting my hair braided while I was in high school, micro braids or different kind of braids, wearing my hair in different styles, hoping that, I was hiding my bald spots well
Mm-hmm.
enough at
Mm-hmm.
that time until I can figure out what's going on.
Francina has a good question for you too. She wanted to know, did you have a lot of support during your journey? And these are, two very difficult things that you were
Mm-hmm.
dealing with at a very young age. So it's difficult for us sometimes to imagine, what that feels like and what you go through, particularly when you're in a place where you can't really explain what's going on with you. You can't eat, you can't swallow, but you don't know why.
Right.
Your hair's coming out, you're right in the height of your teenage years, and you don't understand why.
Right.
So I know mom was there. She's on the line
Oh,
today.
yes, she was. Yes, she was.
Glad to have you with us this evening. Um,
Yes.
but did you have, what other kind of support system did you have? And let me ask you this: was there anybody else your age, a friend that you had that you could talk to? about this, or was it solely family support? Tell us about that.
Solely family support. I didn't really tell a lot of people outside of family what was going on,
Okay.
because I felt they wouldn't understand. They wouldn't. I felt like I was by myself. I was the only one going through it. And no matter how hard I tried to explain it, other than a doctor or, somebody in the medical field, they wouldn't know what I was going through. They
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't know what to call it. So I only kept it within the family. And that's where a lot of my support came from, was from my family. My
Mm-hmm.
mother constantly praying, um, saying, Lord, help me figure out what's wrong with my child. Where do I take her? What doctors do we go see? But yes, I had family support during my journey. Um, and when I decided to go bald from my alopecia, I decided to shave my head. That was family support. And then came outside support when I realized, oh, I'm not the only bald person in the world. Like, I'm not the only young bald person. There are young girls, young boys, young men going through alopecia that are younger than me. So I was like, oh, so this has been around for a while. There are people younger than me that have been going through it for a while. There are people older than me that have been going through it for a while. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm not the only one. And that was a very comforting thought.
Tell me, did your dermatologist recommend any support groups, or did he or she have any information for you that helped you or would help you to navigate through what was going on?
No, not at the time. Not that I can recall anyway. Because this was back in 1993, 94, maybe 1993, 94. So I think it wasn't common, alopecia. So I don't know that they were able to diagnose it properly. Um, but no, I wasn't offered support groups, not that to my knowledge anyway. I was told to try Rogaine to regrow my hair. I was told to, you know, you know, they didn't give me any pills, but they say try Rogaine, and usually Rogaine helps regrow your hair, and try this kind of shampoo or use that kind of hair grease, and
Yeah, yeah. They
that
didn't
didn't
know.
work.
They didn't know
They
a lot
didn't know a
about
lot.
it, or a lot about how to deal with it. Tell Carrie,
Yeah.
what kept you going? What and I say that to say there, when you're dealing with bullying, when you're dealing with diagnoses that people don't understand, when you don't
Hmm.
know how to explain it, when you've got these hospital journeys, you've got all of these things happening to you and happening with you.
Hmm.
But you stood. You
Yes.
stood. You were able to come through. And I know the prayers of the righteous availeth much, because I've known your mom a long time.
Yes.
When she said we got to pray, we got to pray. And
Yes.
that is exactly what we do. But
Yes.
but was there something in particular that just kept you going, that kept you moving, that kept you at a place of saying, you know what, I'm gonna be okay. I can get through this. If there was something, share what that was for you.
This too shall pass.
Mm,
That's what I remember my mother saying. This too shall pass. My
wow.
drive for wanting to know what's next. Like, this can't be where it ends. I was curious about life. I wanted to see, like, what does my future hold for me?
Mhm.
Um, so the prayers from my mother, um, knowing that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Mm.
And just keeping that in mind and wanting to survive.
Wanting
And
to,
then as I got older, I've heard somebody said, God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. I heard somebody say that. And I keep thinking about that. And I'm like, there's a reason why I have gone through all these tough things. And it's not to keep this information to myself, it's to share it because somebody else is probably going through the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, and if I can survive, then maybe I can help somebody else, want to continue. Because there were times when I wanted to give up. Like
Hmm.
when I had my surgery, when I was going into surgery in the hospital in February of March of 2001, I remember looking at my mother as she took my glasses and she looked at my face and she said, "Carrie, what's wrong?" And I lost it. I was like, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I changed my mind. Can I just not have this surgery?" I
Hmm.
was so scared. So, but she calmed me down and she said, "No, you're going to be fine. You're going to live. You're going to survive." And she was telling me that to my face, trying to be that strong motherly figure, telling me that to my face, but I know inside she was like, "Oh dear God, please." um but she didn't show it to me, and her strength is what gave me strength. And
Amen.
I can calm down and say, "Okay, I'm going to be okay. If my mother says I'm going to be okay, then I'm going to be okay."
There you go. There you go. Bernice says, when did you get comfortable revealing to others besides family that you have alopecia? And then this is a two-parter. She wants to know about that, and Francina wants to know about the support group. And I know you mentioned the support group that you are now a part of. So let's, if you don't mind, let's answer
Hmm.
Bernice first.
Okay.
She's asking about when did you get comfortable about sharing your journey with alopecia, and then tell us about this support group that you are now a part of.
Okay. So I'm actually a part of a couple of support groups, but it wasn't until, let's see, I shaved my head in 2005 after my grandmother passed away in the fall of 2005. I shaved my head, and I had to take baby steps because I had to be comfortable looking at myself
Right.
with no hair. And there were days when I would go someplace without a wig, and there were days when I'd go a different place with one. Um, I started, and that's how I literally let others know I have alopecia. They would ask, "Why do you shave your head?" or "Why are you bald?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have alopecia. My hair started falling out in high school, and I decided to cut it off." And
What response would you get when you would tell people that?
they would say, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And usually it's young children, or I'd meet other women who have alopecia and they're wearing a wig, or I'd meet um, other women who were starting to lose their hair.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was a humbling experience the older I got and the more I started, like after being bald for almost 6 months to a year, is when I really started to notice women coming and asking me, "Why do I shave my head?" Or just seeing me, knowing what their hair loss situation is, and
Mm-hmm.
finding me as an inspiration because I'm, bold enough to, as a young woman in my 20s, to wear my hair or go out in public without hair. And at that time in the Central Florida area, I felt like I was the only bald woman. So I said, "Oh, okay." This is like, I must be the only one. I'm like, nobody's ever really doing this. So that's nice. I discovered quickly after being on Facebook that I wasn't, but I was glad to, I felt like I had found my purpose. Like I was glad to be able to shave my head and wear my hair bald and inspire other women to go work through their alopecia or hair loss issues. And if they, knowing that this is a choice, you can wear a wig or you can go bald. The choice is truly yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I joined the Facebook group. I ran across a woman named Angie B in the movie theater in Daytona Beach. I want to say it was during um, when Black Panther first came out.
Okay.
I was going to see that movie, and she handed me a business card and told me who she was, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I held on to it for a while, And then I finally joined her Facebook group, Bold, Beautiful, and Bald. And I discovered there was a lot of women in Central Florida who were bald. And I said, oh, okay. I felt like family. I was a part of that group. I joined, and then another group popped up, Bald Boss Movement. I also joined that group, and but Miss Angie, I participated in a couple of her events, and I just became even more comfortable with my baldness to the point now where I almost joke around. I joke around about it sometimes, whenever the opportunity presents itself, um, and that's just where I get that support from. That's where I find that I can tell others, whoever asks me and who's curious, if they want to know, I'm more than happy to share my story because I'm going through it to help someone else,
Mm-hmm.
to inspire someone else and I've a couple of women I know who actually shaved their head after speaking with me, decided to go bald, and they are beautiful queens themselves. I just that touches me. I feel like, okay, this is my purpose.
And Cherie,
Sherry, that's my
Sherry,
sister, Sherry.
thank you, Sherry. Sherry says, yes, you are definitely an inspiration, and I agree with her totally. Francina is sending a compliment your way that you are indeed beautiful, and
Thank
we
you, thank
thank
you,
you. We thank you
thank
so
you,
much,
thank
Carrie.
you.
I after we prayed for you and we were talking about the last bout that you had
Mm-hmm,
when you had to have the emergency surgery not long
mm-hmm,
ago. I'm so glad that you decided that you would come on the program, because one of the things that we have to be aware of, like you said, we don't go through the things that we go through for us. We
mm-hmm,
go through them so that we can help other people, so we can inspire them, so that we can uplift them. Because, it is a story of strength. It is a testimony of triumph when you are able to come through. And I don't think we realize all of the strength that it takes, the age that you were
mm-hmm.
having to deal with what you had to deal with. So I'm asking you tonight, what would you like to leave with our listeners? Because our time is just about up. But
Okay.
what would you like them to know, or just what would you say to them, either for themselves or that would be helpful with dealing with someone that they may know that
Mm-hmm.
is struggling with the same things that you were?
Prayer definitely does help. God is listening, and the way He answers you may seem very subtle with the people He places in your path or the strength that He gives you, because honestly, that's where all of my strength comes from. So I would say pray and trust the process.
Amen.
Things aren't always going to happen immediately, but they will happen in time. So pray and trust the process, and know that you can come out on the other side a better person than what you were when everything started.
Oh, right. I tell you what, pray and trust the process. I hope you all heard that and heard that very, very clearly. Because I tell you what, I don't care what the challenges may be. Maybe yours is an alopecia, maybe yours is lupus, maybe yours is cancer. Whatever it is, whatever storm you may be in at the moment, if you pray and trust the process, like Carrie said, you're going to come out all right. You are going to come out all right. Carrie, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I thank the listeners for taking the time to hear your journey, hear your story. This program will be replayed on Saturday at noon. It will be played again. So if you know of someone who has alopecia, if you know of somebody who may be struggling with hair loss or whatever it may be, please direct them to ALH Broadcasting on Saturday at noon so that they can hear Carrie's journey, hear her story of strength and her testimony of triumph. I tell you what, Andrew said you did a beautiful job speaking tonight, Carrie Runyon. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Cecilia. Thank you
Thank you.
for being with us tonight. Thank you for the encouragement. And Carrie, I tell you what, there is a lot in you. There's a lot that you want to do, and I know that there are dreams yet to be realized. And I
Yes.
thank you. I thank you for being part of my life and part of my family, and for being able to take this opportunity. I am glad. I'm so happy that I have the platform that will enable people like yourself to come on and to share, because somebody's going to know that they can make it
Yes.
because of you sharing your story. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you, listeners, for being here, for tuning in, and for being part of When Life Speaks. Be sure that you come back. We are here every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. We only have a couple of more Thursdays before we will be into a new year. Woo! I can't even imagine, but we will. One of these programs, I think it's the last one, is going to be our night of prayer. So be sure to mark your calendar for that. Next week is probably going to be E2, where I'm going to give you some encouraging words for the evening and let you just relax a little bit, because I know everybody's going to be crazed with shopping and all the other things that we do this time of year. Francina says, beautiful testimony. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey. Continue to walk in your strength and your purpose. And I think we're going to use
Thank
that
you.
as our closing words for the night. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Again, come back next week, guys. Join me. I'll be right here for another edition of When Life Speaks. Come ready to turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good night, everybody. Good
Good night.
night, Gary. Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night. Thank you.